So, tactical voting. What are my thoughts on it? First things first. Um, yes and no. I can absolutely get behind anyone who puts the argument before you that once again, the objective of this election has to be get the Tories out of power. I am absolutely down for that argument of tactical voting 110%. But, and I have to say, but, we are in a very bizarre situation, and especially with Brexit and especially with the Tories. Look, if, as Boris Johnson has gone out today before the CIB and basically said this, all I need is a majority of 9 MPs. That's all he needs. And that is, by all measurements, all counts, everything that we know, is very, very doable. So there is a very serious, as I said before, a very serious concern that if the Remain vote decides to split with this tactical voting, which again can be very worrying, and that it might be, for example, why would you vote? Let's say you're in a marginal seat, and let's say Labour is, last time they got second place, and they were literally 200, 300, 400 votes from winning. Why on earth would you then vote for, as it stands now, Liberal Democrats, Plaid Cymru, Green Party? Why on earth would you vote for them when those votes for the this Remain alliance that we've got going means that the Tory guy wins, and he wins by a very small margin? That is my worry in all these marginal seats. What will happen? Of course, we won't know until Friday the 13th. Again, and I'm sure you'll agree, a very, shall we say, portentous date. And once again, as Boris Johnson has said, I only need a majority of 9 MPs to get Brexit done. And it's not just Brexit. We are looking at the most hard right Tory party since Margaret Thatcher. And you can even make the case that this Tory party is even more hard right than her party was at that time. And that should worry everyone out in this country, because let's just go over some of the issues, shall we? First of all, Brexit. It's the big one. Just because Boris Johnson gets his withdrawal agreement through does not mean that it is the end of Brexit. It is but the beginning of the beginning. And as I've always said to people, we haven't even left the European Union. So you cannot start counting the costs and real effect of Brexit until, shall we say, that the scissors have cut the rope, so to say. And that's the first thing. And any majority that has been given to Boris will be a hard no-deal Brexit, which will be an absolute disaster for the working people and the vast majority of people in this country. It cannot fly at all. And I know a lot of people say, well, I can't trust Corbyn on his Brexit policy. Well, I'll explain it to you as is explained many times. He wants to go back to Brussels and renegotiate his deal. Now, his deal, from all counts, seems to be to keep Britain in the customs union, from closest what we can assess. Now, hopefully, there will be some sort of plan in that in the manifesto that is coming out. Should be coming out soon, if not by the time this video is coming out. We will, no doubt, I'm sure, have a ruffle through it, see what's in it. But yeah, and then to take his deal and go, okay, here's my deal, here's Remain. Which one do you want? Essentially, that, for all intents and purposes, at this moment in time, seems to be what Jeremy Corbyn wants as his Brexit deal. Now, of course, if you know anything about the coverage of what the European Union has said, they've basically said, this withdrawal agreement you have at the moment is the best it's going to be unless you make significant changes. Now, a significant change could indeed be staying in the customs union. So that could be significant enough to cause them to reopen the negotiations to re-talk about the withdrawal agreement. Now, once again, that is just the withdrawal agreement, because once you've entered into that, we then have a 2-year period to talk about what normally takes about 7 to 10 years with our closest trading partner. That will not change after Brexit. And we will get an absolutely god-awful deal. And if Johnson gets his way, and he gets those 9 MPs, and he gets his no-deal Brexit, as I said, this is just the beginning of the beginning. Not only that, you've then got the housing crisis to talk about. We recently learned the Tories put all this money aside and they have built no, I repeat, 0 new homes. When everyone from left to right, there is no disagreement here, we are in a housing crisis. Partly because the Tories don't want to build new houses, because that then means that if there are new houses, house prices do normally fall, especially in areas where there is demand for new houses. Now, of course, they don't want to do that. Of course, the other thing is renting. We need to significantly sort out landlords, and we need to get rents really under massive control in this country. We need to give more powers to people who are allowed, who do rent from people. I mean, you've only got to look, once again, look at the continent. The normal time to rent from somewhere, the normal average contract is at least 10 years. Over here, it's 3 to 4. And that is no time at all in the grand scheme of things. That's nothing over here compared to what it is in Europe. You can't make investments in your home like they do again in Europe. If you want a new kitchen, your landlord will fully support you putting in a new kitchen. You know, they're fine with it. Once again, I think what we really need to do is look what's going on in Europe, look what's working, and bring it over here. I'd be fine with that. So we've got Brexit, you've got the housing crisis, you've got the NHS, which is, once again, it is in a crisis. Put it this way, the Tories have put more crises, they've got more crises on their hands caused by them than, as far as I know, any living government in living recent memory. You know, so we've got Brexit, housing crisis, NHS crisis. You've got the universal credit crisis. Universal credit, which was massively pushed by the Tories. One of the biggest justices of this election would be to see Ian Duncan Smith, who was responsible for pushing universal credit and the mess that it is in, would be for him to lose his seat. That would be one of the biggest, regardless of what happens, justices to come out from this election. So, where are we? Brexit, housing, NHS, yeah, work and pensions crisis, work crisis, 0 hour contracts, and the gig economy are ruining people's lives. People who, again, full time employment. How many hours did you work this week? Oh, 2. And yet they are classed as being in full-time employment because of 0 hour contracts, something that once again the Tories have pledged to do something about but have done nothing. And those are just five things that the Tories are completely responsible for. They've happened on their watch. So I have to say, coming back to this whole tactical voting thing, as much as I could potentially get behind it, all the parties have to be behind the idea of tactical voting, and not all the parties are behind the idea of tactical voting. So before you decide whether you go yes or no with your tactical voting, look at what happened at the last election. If the Labour candidate was literally only like a couple of hundred votes away from winning, then vote Labour. Don't go with the alliance, even though you may not feel like you want to go with the Labour, or you certainly don't want to vote Tory, but you like the Lib Dems, Greens, whatever. Consider that and think that your vote allows the Tories in. And that's what many seats are looking at in this general election. So, again, vote Labour. Please vote Labour. And once again, if you do want to vote tactically, then have a look what happened last election in your constituency and really, really consider, is voting tactically worth it? Because we cannot, and I'm sorry, we cannot have another 4 years of an even harder right Tory government on this country. We just cannot afford it. There are many people, homelessness gone through the roof, food bank usage gone through the roof, all because of the Tories and their policies. Throw Brexit into the mix and what that will cause to this country, things are going to get a lot worse. And here's the thing, guys. If you go and you vote Tory and all this bad stuff happens, you've got no one to blame but yourselves on this one. I'm sorry, but there's no other way. The only way out of this mess is for Corbyn to become PM. And bear in mind, I'm not the biggest Corbyn fan. I have my criticisms of him. But he is the only one, I think, and his government that could get us out of this mess. It could offer us a second referendum. It could sort out the housing crisis and all these other crises that we've got on our hands. So, relay this message to everyone far and near. Please vote Tory. I was going to say Tory then. Please vote Labour in this coming election. And before you consider, but you go, but Ball Hat Man, I'm going to vote tactically, so it'll be fine. Please do your research before you decide to vote tactically. If Labour is the second close runner and you're talking the Lib Dems are a distant third place, why on earth would you vote them when the main objective of this election is to defeat the Tories? That is the purpose of this election. And in many, many, many constituencies, the only party that will be capable of doing that will be the Labour Party. So I ask you, put your faith in Labour and vote Labour in this coming election.